bind you if you let it. Do what is necessary. Not because it is written. We will make our own destiny.
Okay guys, let's talk about it. Who's going to win Game of the Year? Ever since Elden Ring first dropped, the entire gaming community has had to make a decision or a choice. Who's going to win Game of the Year? Elden Ring or God of War? This year's Game of the Year awards though will be an interesting one, as on one hand you have the emotional rollercoaster and almost perfect storyline of God of War, and on the other hand you have the majestically yet brutally designed Elden Ring, a game solely designed to push you to the utmost limits of whatever you as a gamer can go. In short, a game designed for you to lose, lose, and lose until you eventually win. The year 2022 has been nothing short of exceptional when it comes to gaming. Gamers have been treated to an absolute feast this year, from the release of Horizon Forbidden West right down to the story-driven narrative of A Plague Requiem. Gamers have had a chance to really be gamers this year, having a plethora of games across different genres, all being featured in Game of the Year. This year we've had, as usual, 6 nominees for Game of the Year, and amongst these 6 have been completely different games. But now we all know the true point of this is that at the end of the day it's only going to come down to 2 games, Elden Ring and God of War. And still, the fact that both games are completely different games is amazing, because on one hand you have God of War, a game that in all fairness is linear, story driven, and slightly open, a game that speaks to a gamer who loves story. And then you have the game Elden Ring, although not short of story, a game that's mostly built around its open world and total brutality. It speaks to all types of gamers, or at least a specific type of gamer. It has been a while since a Souls-like genre game has been nominated for Game of the Year, and yet also be this close to actual winning it. So let's see how it goes, and let's get down to it and talk about why one of these deserve to win it more than the other. Firstly though, I'd like to point out that comparing both these games will be a bit unfair, as well as really hard, as they are both 2 completely different games, and that's just putting it mildly. As mentioned before, God of War Ragnarok is an emotional rollercoaster between father and son, both demigod, which explores the rich beauty of the Norse mythology, as well as a journey of self-discovery for both Atreus and in some sense for Kratos as well. It speaks to you not only as a gamer but as a person, and of course the gameplay elements, though not far too different from its predecessor, it doesn't come short with its improvements, an added layer of entertainment and a catching story, if I can put it like that. From new weapons right down to utilities, it boasts a number of improvements. Playing God of War, the player finds himself yet again in the same storyline of a journey between father and son as Kratos and Atreus make their journey through the Norse mythology world, and quite a world it is. The creators made sure they put work into this game, because in my case, I thought it was going to be the same world. I knew they were going to try and make it different, but I didn't know they were going to make it this different. If I thought God of War was truly living up to the magical beauty of the Norse mythology world in the previous installment, I was wrong in this one. And when it comes to being wrong, I have to come up with some points here, and I'm sure some of you might not agree with me, but personally I felt that the new God of War was lackluster in terms of improvements in certain areas. In the previous God of War, I enjoyed opening up chests. Like, I didn't mind opening up chests. It's called Hex Silver, if I'm correct, the currency we use to improve our weapons, the Leviathan X and the Chains of Chaos and some other weapons which I won't mention, of course. But when it comes to that aspect, is that when it came to this God of War, I found myself bored halfway through the game, and I wouldn't say halfway through, but I kind of got annoyed at the amount of chests I had to open, and it got daunting at the fact that I knew what I was going to open. It's just maybe once and I'll be like, oh, okay, that. But then even then, you can really tell the differences between the chess, especially if you played the previous game. And of course, that's just a little nuance. It's nothing game breaking, and it doesn't change the whole experience of the game. But then, in another sense, I'd also have to look at, and again, I'm just nitpicking it because the game is just that good. Another instance would be the puzzles. When it comes to me, especially like Elden Ring, as of course that's the game I'm comparing it to. When it came to puzzles, is not necessarily puzzles, but at least when it came to solving things, you as the gamer had to figure that out for yourself. It's what made the game you had to game. And in God of War, there were some instances which I kind of felt annoyed where I was probably stuck at a puzzle and I wasn't even given, and I'm exaggerating here, I wasn't given like a chance to truly figure it out. It would get figured out for me. And that's like part of the gaming, the difficulty aspect that was taken away. But again, that's not what God of War is known for, or at least known for now. Because God of War right now is a game that's built around its story and gameplay in some sorts. The exploration of the world isn't necessary to explore just to explore for new items and so on. It's mostly for upgrades and to enjoy the rich history of the game. And that's the beauty of God of War. And that's why I can't take anything away from it. So if I had to complain about God of War, I wouldn't really have anything much to complain about. Because again, if I was complaining, I'd just be nitpicking at this point. So God of War is an amazing game, and it deserves all the praise it's received this year. And in all fairness, there should be no argument on why it shouldn't win Game of the Year. But of course, that's where Elden Ring comes in, and that's why we have to talk about Elden Ring. Elden Ring, a game that was solely designed to literally push your mental state to its utmost limits and make you beg the question, why? Why are you playing this game? Why suffer? Why struggle? And even so, you decide to respawn in front of that foggy wall and push even more, struggle ever more slightly, a roll, a tumble, a parry too late, and you're standing right in front of that foggy wall once more. Elden Ring captured what every Souls game has been trying to attain for years. I had the liberty of playing the first Dark Souls and I loved it. And I never got to play Dark Souls 2, and I played Dark Souls 3 and I enjoyed it. But ever since then, it felt like From Software were trying to catch up or recapture that spark from all those years ago. And Bloodborne was an amazing game, but it was PS4 exclusive, so it never really got the love that it would have gotten from the entire gaming community. And we also had the Sekiro series, and Sekiro was amazing. The swordplay, the fights, it was just amazing. But Elden Ring, for some reason, decided to go just a bit further. For the first time, it was a game where there was actual story, and I'm not saying the other Souls games never had story, but for some reason, From Software decided to actually put some actual effort into the story, and it was really good. Elden Ring was that game where the story wasn't clear, it wasn't straightforward, but the most correct story for the game was the one you get the first time playing it. Not without the YouTube, or not without anyone, just you and the game. And it was amazing. Even the twist at the end, the plot twist. I mean, of course, if you're playing the game and you were paying attention, you would have figured out, or you would have been given the hint way earlier. And apart from story, of course, the story isn't going to rival that of God of War's. And the combat, you could say was, I wouldn't say wanting, but it was, no, what am I saying? It was amazing. The combat was beautiful. From the abusive nature of the moon, what's it called? The moon, I'm going to call it the moon sword. And the beauty of me personally, I was a faith user, the blasphemous blade, and I abused it. It was amazing. And where God of War faltered, it excelled. When it came to difficulty, Elden Ring was unforgiving, it was punishing, it broke you down as an individual. When it came to looting and exploration, there was so much to be discovered. The world was so open to you, yet unknown to you at the same time. You could go out and do whatever you want. And sure, there was difficulty here and there. Once you managed to meet the requirements and you adjusted and learned, the game became easy to you, right? Wrong. It still got harder. You had to be focused, you had to be razor sharp throughout the entire game. If you decide to falter, if you were too tired to play, you would get punished. And that's where Elden Ring shined. Of course, if I had to look at the faults, it would obviously be in the story. As much as I started off saying that the best story is the story you made, of course, most people say that's lazy writing because it's their attempt at not having to commit to a story. But Elden Ring actually put a lot of effort into it. For me, someone who actually takes time to read my items and so on, I managed to put the story together and I found the story to be amazing and mind-blowing. While I had other friends who didn't really put that much effort and just decided to play the game, and they enjoyed the game and loved the game but never really got the story. All they got was, oh, so that's what happens at the end. But at the end of the day, it was still an amazing game. And just like God of War, if I had to look for faults, I'd really be looking for a needle in a haystack, because there's a reason why these games are perfect. Like, the perfection literally hid their faults. Whatever they were good at, they were so good at it. Anything they were bad at, you wouldn't notice unless you actually looked for them. So in short, like I said at the beginning of this, the year 2022 has been an amazing year for gaming. Many argued that single player games were dead, but this year we were shown that it's not, it's far from it. And although in the past gamers have been treated to hype and promises and the failure to deliver them, this year was different. This year, gamers got the chance to experience gaming for what it really is, what it's always been. Amazing, entertaining, an escape from the world we're already in, and God of War and Elden Ring personify this. And yes, of course, there were other games that came out this year. These two games have truly captured the spirit of what gaming has been and what it can be, and hopefully it's the same going forward. From the potential release of Starfield to Black Myth to even the new Taken 8 coming out, the future for gaming looks promising. And although I did start off this video with who is going to win Game of the Year, again, like I said, and I'm sure you noticed, personally I feel it's going to be Elden Ring, because Elden Ring marks a new chapter in gaming and a new direction. Before, people or Souls-like games were for a select few, select majority in the gaming community, and Elden Ring was the game that broke through and actually became a game for all gamers. Even though, in all fairness, the only thing different was probably that it was just open world. It was still different, and it felt like the fact that it was an open world, in fact, it felt like it being an open world ended up becoming a game open to all, if I can say that at least. And I hope it does win Game of the Year, but even if it doesn't, God of War deserves its Game of the Year nomination. And if it does win, heck, who knows, it might even be a Plague Requiem, or Requiem as others may call it. It might end up being that. We don't know, but all I can say is that this year gaming has been amazing, and I'm excited and happy to be a gamer now and going into the future. And yeah, guys, and that's about it. And if you did enjoy this video, I hope you did, and leave a comment and let me know what your idea and who do you think might win Game of the Year. In fact, it might be none of the games I mentioned here, but Other than that, guys, thanks for watching, and I really appreciate you guys sticking through and watching this and listening to me rant about who I think might win Game of the Year. Thank you, guys. It's your boy, MK Feed.